you running for election to the Nebraska Board of Regents?
Well, I believe in education. That's always been what I've been involved in for many years. And I see a need for a good, strong, conservative voice for Western Nebraska. And I believe it's very important to have someone who has an education background, has taught, understands what the students need, and also has an ability to listen to people.
And so what expertise would you bring to the Board of Regents?
I have been a public school teacher at one point in time. Then I went to work for a prison in Norton, Kansas. And while I was there, I was actually the trainer of staff, and then later was responsible for the accreditation of the facility, and I monitored all of the health and environment and things like that. In doing that, I know how to follow policy. I know how to read policy and interpret it. I know that words mean things. And I also served for 8 years on the State Board of Education here in Nebraska. And during that time, I became acquainted with the people in Western Nebraska. We've got good people. I've been able to talk to students. I know what they want to have when they go to college. And so I want to help make that happen.
Right. And so is critical race theory, in your opinion, being taught at University of Nebraska campus? And if so, how?
It is. It's infused in many classes. It's not, I mean, you don't go find the words critical race theory. It's kind of like a diamond. It's multifaceted. It deals with things like decolonization, colonialism, all kinds of things fall under that. There's many code words, and it's in especially the teacher training at the university. In fact, if you go to the website, you will find references to an individual by the name of Bettina Love, and she is nationally known for pushing the critical race theory. And I believe individuals are all unique. They all have a special purpose. They have unique skills that they bring to the table. So I don't like seeing people painted as oppressors and oppressed. I want to focus on the individual, help them achieve the most that they can. And it is in our university. And again, if you talk to students, they'll tell you about the things they face in many of the classes. And what they want to do when they pay their tuition is get educated, not indoctrinated. So that's the focus that we need to look at when we're looking at the Board of Regents, and who are we going to have serve on that board? Are they going to be a voice for the students and for the taxpayers in Western Nebraska?
Perfect. And you may have already said this, but if elected to the Board of Regents, how would you work to ban CRT, or would you ban CRT?
What I would do is work so that there's an awareness on the campus by all the professors as to what's going on. Also, the rest of the board needs to understand what it is, because I know some of them are saying, hey, there's no critical race theory at the university. And unfortunately, they're missing the code words, the clues that tell you there's critical race theory. So first of all, bringing an awareness, finding out how can we focus on the individual, their unique needs, their unique skills that they bring to the table. Instead of sowing discontent, let's help people work together. That's what America should be about, and that's what I want to help with.
And as Regent, how would you work to make college tuition affordable and accessible to all families?
Well, right now, I think the university's doing a really good job. You know, they've been holding down the cost of the tuition. So I would want to look at all the requests they have for budgets. Let's look at what's really needed. Are there some places that maybe we need to make cuts that would protect our tuition and keep it affordable for all families? And currently I know we have a limit or a place on the salary scale for families that the individuals that fall under that can actually come to college without worrying about that tuition cost.
And how would you work to avoid tuition hikes?
Well, again, responsible spending of the taxpayer dollars. And, you know, maybe we even need to look at salaries. I'm sure none of the professors would want to talk about that. But if you look at the salary schedules in the university system, compared to the common man out here working in Nebraska, they really are doing quite well. And so, you know, there may have to be things like some freezes on some of our expenses. We may have to look at some of our utilities. You know, who knows? Those are the reasons I want to be on the board. I want to find those issues that are of concern, and I want to work for solutions that are workable for taxpayers, for students, and then again, meeting the needs of Western Nebraska. You know, we have a lot of needs out here. The university works toward that. We try to meet the needs of businesses, the laborers that are coming out, and preparing those individuals to do adequate jobs and be successful.
And as regent, how would you work to ensure that high school students are ready to attend college?
Well, on the Board of Regents, there's not a lot I can do with that. I think people need to really look at their State Board of Education. When I was on the State Board of Education, those were some of the concerns we had. And we need to focus, again, on academic education. Those were things that I was concerned about several years ago when I was on the State Board of Education. We shouldn't be lowering our standard coming into college. We need to look at the other side and make sure that we are actually giving them the adequate academic education they need to be successful, to come to college, and not drop out then out of frustration, but be able to truly succeed.
Perfect. And how would you work to ensure that students are world ready upon graduation?
Again, the adequate education. Are we truly educating, or are we spending our time on maybe other things like the indoctrination I just talked about, or sowing some discontent among different people coming to college, or the countries that are coming here for an education? You know, we need to focus on the professions, the needs of the businesses and the people out here in general, and what does it take to meet those needs.
And how can the Board of Regents work with the private sector to address workforce issues?
Well, again, listening, and that's the role I would want to play as a board member too. Example, when I was in Western Nebraska recently, the far western side, I know we think we're in Western Nebraska here, but when I was out there, a couple veterinarians told me they're actually getting some of the individuals out of college now, coming out new. They really aren't as prepared as they want them to be. They are actually having to kind of do some supervision and internship that they don't feel they should have to do once somebody's completed that program. Also, here on NTV, recently, I think it was March the 2nd, there was a news clip that told of a teacher in Grand Island. She's actually the curriculum coordinator, and she was saying, we're getting individuals out now that do not have the skills they need to do the job we're asking them to do. And to me, that's a crime. When a student has gone to school for 4 or 5 years, they've borrowed money, they're in debt, they're going to pay for years, and then somehow we're missing the mark. We need to fix that. And good listening, going out and talking to the businesses, talking to the teachers, listening to them on, you know, where do you think we fell short on the education that you needed? And that's how you fix things. You listen, you go back, you make the necessary changes.
Perfect. And make sure everything's still great. Okay. So, if elected to the Board of Regents, how would you work to increase the rural workforce in areas such as agriculture, healthcare, law, etc.?
Well, one thing for sure, I would work to keep the College of Technical Agriculture out there in Curtis. Keep those students as close to home as possible. I think then they're more apt to stay there. They don't get so lured by the big city and, you know, all the activities. Help them stay at home and be involved like in family businesses or in the manufacturing, the plants and things that we have in that area.
And how do you hope to increase transparency and communication among the Board of Regents and the university system as a whole?
I think coming out on a very regular basis, meeting with individuals in this area, letting them know what is going on. Example, does the public out here know that some time ago we spent $300,000 bringing in consultants to basically deal with critical theory issues at our university? Why wasn't that communicated? Why doesn't the public know that these things exist and that money's being spent this way? So press releases, meetings, and again, being someone that the public can call and talk to about their concerns. I had a student walk up and talk to me the other night in McCook, Nebraska, over the things that he had faced at the university and how he had even had his grade docked simply because he was a conservative student. So listening and then coming back, communicating that to the university, and seeing what we can do as a board to correct those things.
And I talked about this with the candidates on the local level, the Board of Education, but how would you work to keep students here in Nebraska once they graduate high school, to bring them back?
Well, that's going to, again, I think take some work with the legislature to see what we can do as incentives. It can be things like loan forgiveness out in our rural areas or in other areas if they stay and work in this area. So working with the legislature, and that's something I feel that I do have a leg up on, in the fact that I have worked very closely with legislators. I've been down to the hearings many times over legislation that affects our freedoms, affects our rights as individuals or as parents. And that's something I would want to continue to do, because if we work as a team, we can make better progress for everyone here in Nebraska.
Perfect. And I forgot one question, but going back to the top, so speaking of diversity and making sure students are world ready, how would you work to make sure that all students are being open to other students that don't look like them?
Again, if we emphasize the fact that everyone's an individual, they have a worth, they have value as individuals, they bring unique things to our community, to our workforce, and the varied backgrounds that individuals come from can be capitalized upon and valued. And that's what I think is important, rather than sowing seeds of discourse. And I'll give you an example of that. We have a professor I know at the university that was in an article, and she said she's using the 1619 project as she works with her training there at the college. The 1619 project really focuses on negative things of America's history. It teaches that America has been horrible in the past. And I will guarantee we have done some things that would have been better to do differently many years ago. Those days are past. We need to go on from here, correct those mistakes, but again, go for individualization and value of each person rather than dividing any individuals into, a group of oppressors and oppressed. When you focus on negatives and you focus on past problems, you can't move forward in a positive way. And we need to move forward here in America, in our universities and in our communities. And so that's how I would deal with that.
And my last question is, why should people vote for you?
Well, I have a proven conservative record in the past. When I served on the State Board of Education, my focus was on parental rights. It was on the local district control. It was on the responsible expenditure of your dollars, and on academic education. I served 8 years for Western Nebraska at that time, and my voting record shows that I did exactly what I told the public I would do. I was always a listener. I went out and met with individuals, and I also did my own press releases so that people knew what happened, like in the meetings or the discussions that we were having. Often the department did not do that at that time. They had other, focuses, and I wanted the people to know what we were dealing with so that if they had concerns, they could come to me, let me know ahead of time. And so I have a proven record, and I work hard, I do my research, and I will do the same on the Board of Regents.